Good evening. Welcome to the June 4th, 2018 Troy City Council meeting. We are pleased this evening to have Councilman Pennington lead us with the invocation. So please rise for that and then remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, Lord, and we thank you for all the wonderful opportunities we have in this country. We pray that you continue to bless us and keep the fire and police and all the first responders safe. The special blessing over the military, and let us have wise decisions over this council tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilman Pennington. The Troy City Council meeting is now called to order. The roll call, Ms. Dixon.
Mayor Slater.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Abraham.
Here.
Councilmember Baker.
Here.
Councilmember Hamilton.
Here.
Councilmember Henderson.
Here.
Councilmember Hoderick.
Here.
Councilmember Pennington.
Here.
All present. At this point, I would like to move that we hereby excuse the absence of Councilman Pennington at the special study session, Joint City Council School Board study session of May 22nd, 2018, due to being out of the county.
Support.
Moved by the chair, supported by Councilman Henderson, that we excuse the absence at the special city council meeting and joint school board study session of May 22nd, 2018, due to being out of the county. Discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon?
Mayor Slater.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Abraham.
Yes.
Councilmember Baker.
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton.
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick.
Yes.
Councilmember Pennington.
Yes.
Motion passes. First on the agenda are certificates of recognition and special presentations. We have one this evening, a special presentation to the Mayor and City Council for the 2018 OPA Fest, and I would like to call Cindy Stewart, our Community Affairs Director, to introduce the members of the St. Nicholas Greek Orthodox Church.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council.
Good
it's
evening.
my pleasure to introduce you to some members of St. Nick's Greek Cultural Church. We have Mrs. Corey Haddad and her daughter Gina, and we have Alex Andriopoulos and her father. And they're going to tell you about OPA Fest.
Welcome. Please use the microphone to speak.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. OPA.
OPA.
It's coming up in a few weeks, June 22, 23, 24 at St. Nicholas Greek Orthodox Church. And we're here tonight to invite all of you and all the members of the community to join us for a wonderful weekend, praying for wonderful weather. St. Nicholas Greek Orthodox Church is located on Waddles Road, 760 West Waddles Road, and it will be held on Friday from 4 to 11, Saturday from 4 to 11, and Sunday from 12 to 8. Gina is going to tell us a little bit about the festival.
If you guys attend this festival, you will experience the sights, the sounds, and tastes of proud people whose culture and history goes back over 4,500 years. Our members have worked very hard to prepare authentic foods, costumes, and dances so that you can become Greek for a short while. We invite you to participate in the celebration of the Hellenic culture, dance, food, and faith.
Thank you.
The intermission at the festival will be $2 for adults. Children 12 and under are free. Or 3 canned goods donated at Gleaners Community Food Bank at Southeastern Michigan. There will also be free parking and shuttle buses from Walsh College on Livernois Road, just southwest of Waddles Road.
What everyone wants to know about is the food, right? We have some of our pastries that are homemade from members of our parish. Those of you with a sweet tooth, we will have homemade honey-drenched baklava as one of our many delectable temptations. We also have kurambietes, koulourakya, sesame cookies, paxamadia, and all of the Greek delights. When you're looking for the main meal, we will have lamb shank platters. They will be sliced from the vertical rotisserie. And we also have spinach pie, or spanakopita, chicken kebabs, pasticho, which is like the Greek lasagna, all homemade and ready to eat. Alex, you want to talk about the coffee house?
Yeah. So, there's a Greek coffee house where you will find real Greek coffee, a cold frappe, and honey puffs.
Okay. Other than the foods, we will also have live Greek cooking demonstrations where you can learn to prepare some classic Greek foods. We will have Stella Metsovis, who is a globally recognized nutritionist, media health expert, and Greek chef, author of the book Wild Mediterranean, for everyone on those Mediterranean diets right now. She will be presenting. We are going to have an Iron Chef competition on Saturday night between St. Nicholas Church and the Detroit News. Also, some fun things for kids. Gina, are you going to talk about that?
So, there will be a Greek marketplace where they will be selling t-shirts, jewelry, arts and crafts, and there will be a bookstore. And there will be presentations on Greek culture and religion along with tours of St. Nicholas Church. And there will also be Greek dance performers. It'll be traditional Greek folk dances performed by over 200 dancers. And there will be daily live dancing to the Greek band, the Lavendas. There will be a kids area with rides and games. Raffles and prizes throughout the festival will also be provided. There will be a Yaya's cook-off or a grandma cook-off, which is against St. George Bloomfield Hills versus St. Nick's. That will be on Sunday, and you can visit and tour a beautiful St. Nicholas Church.
And last but not least, something that is very near and dear to our hearts, Be the Match is going to be there at our church. This is to do a bone marrow drive. It's our way of giving back to our community here. There are 12,000 people waiting for a match on the U.S. registry. And so this is a small favor that we are wanting to give back to our community and to the country. It's a very simple cheek swab, and there will be representatives there from Be the Match, so anyone who visits the festival can see about getting on their registry. And really, OpaFest is here to bring the aromas, sounds, tastes, and traditions of Greece to everyone's doorstep. Your admission ticket will become your passport. If you'd like to know more, you can visit opafest.org for all these details. Any questions or just want to eat? Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much. It's a great event for the city, and I know we all make sure that we make it there to celebrate with you. But thank you for doing this for our community.
And we are the longest running Greek festival in the state of Michigan, and Troy has always been very supportive of our church and our festival and all of our events. So we thank everyone here and everyone in the community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you wanted to give those to the clerk, I think they'd find their way down the line.
Put them, yeah.
No.
I mean, yes. Speak for yourself. What?
We can take a break. Thanks again. There are no carryover items this evening, so we will move to public hearings. We have a continuation of a public hearing. E1 is the adoption of the Brownfield Redevelopment Plan Number 9 for Midtown Apartments, 205 Park Street, projected address subject to change, north of Park Street, east of Livernois, Section 34. I know we postponed this because of the time limits. Staff want to say any more at this point?
No, Mayor, the presentation stands on its own. We're here to answer questions. Both Mr. Lapin and representatives from PM Environmental and SR Jacobson are here.
Thank you. Any questions from council for staff or the developer at this point? Does anyone here in the audience wish to speak on this item at this point? Seeing none, I will close this public hearing and return it to the table for resolution. Councilman Henderson.
I'd like to move E1, adoption of Brownfield redevelopment plan number 9 for Midtown Apartments, 205 Park Street, projected address subject to change, north of Park Street, east of Livernois, section 34.
Support.
Moved by Councilman Henderson and supported by Councilwoman Hoderick that we approve E1, which is the adoption of the Brownfield redevelopment plan number 9 for Midtown Apartments, 205 Park Street, projected address subject to change, north of Park Street, east of Livernois, section 34, as printed in the agenda packet. Any discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Mayor Pro Tem Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Councilmember Pennington?
Yes.
Mayor Slater?
Yes. Congratulations. Please pass along to Scott our thanks for picking Troy and doing this development at a location that needed an uplift, to say the least. So if you could, Manny, if you could pass that along to Scott, it would be appreciated. Thank you so much. I don't see that anyone has signed up for public comment for items on the agenda from Troy residents and businesses. So we will move to postponed items. H1, City Council nominations to the Charter Revision Committee. Councilman Henderson.
Mayor, I'd like to move H1, City Council nominations to the Charter Revision Committee, and I'd like to add a name of an interested party.
Okay.
And that name is Toby Buechner.
So you want to add that name as a fourth nomination?
Fourth nomination, yes.
Is there a second to that motion?
Support.
Moved by Councilman Henderson, supported by Councilman Pennington, that we add the nomination to the Charter Revision Committee, the name of Toby Buechner, for the term that expires 4/30/2021, I would assume. Is that correct? Discussion on that. Councilman Hamilton.
So who's everyone we're voting on now? Just that one or all?
No, that would add a fourth name.
So all four names. Okay.
So there would be an individual vote on each of the four. And whoever got the most votes would be appointed. But at this point, these are nominations. Any further discussion on that? Councilman Pennington.
Is this discussion just on Mr. Buechner or on all the nominees?
This is a discussion on adding Mr. Buechner to as the fourth nominee to the Charter Revision Committee. City Clerk Dixon.
So the two resolutions that were brought forward had not been voted on. So they are not considered nominations until they're approved by council as being nominations. So if you wanted to consider all four of them, then you would need to vote to nominate both of those other resolutions that were brought forward from the last meeting, because they were just postponed. They weren't actually voted on to be nominations.
Okay, we can vote on this nomination, and we can vote on the other two nominations. Okay, let's take a vote on this nomination. This is a nomination to add a fourth name.
This is just to nominate Mr. Buechner to be the charter, to go forward to be appointed, possibly.
Councilwoman Hoderick, do you have a question?
Yeah, I must confess, I'm confused. So what were the other two nominations?
So last meeting, there were two resolutions that were both postponed. The one resolution was moved by Mayor Pro Tem Abraham and seconded by Councilmember Hoderick to nominate Mark Bartnick and John Kules. Then there was another nomination that was moved by Councilmember Henderson and seconded by Councilmember Pennington to nominate William Murray. But those nominations were never acted on. They were never voted on. Then the next resolution was to postpone everything to this meeting. So those nominations are not considered, those motions are not considered nominations until they're voted on by council to be nominations. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And then once those are voted on, so that all four of those people, assuming all four of those people would be nominated, then there would be a choice vote that I would present to council, and I would ask each council member to give the three choices that they have. Whichever three candidates were the top three vote getters would move on to be appointed.
This is a change in process for how we've been handling, just over the 5 years I've been on, that is creating, so there's 3 slots, but we're now having 4 names brought forward.
It's actually Rule 16 in the council rules of procedure, that if there were more candidates than spots available, there's a choice vote that's provided to the council, and the council gives their, in this case, top 3 choices, and whichever 3 choices get the most votes, that's who would be appointed.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I just want to understand what I'm doing.
Councilman Baker.
I know Toby Buechner very well. Can I ask Councilman Henderson, you've spoken with, I know he submitted an application. Can I just ask why you nominated him?
Yeah, Toby has volunteered several times for various positions. In fact, I think he wanted to be nominated for a council position at one point. Tony's a solid business person in the community. He and I had a conversation. He would like to be on this charter revision committee, and there's reasons why I would like to have him on that committee as well. So.
Any other questions from council regarding placing Mr. Buechner into nomination? And just to clarify, this has been done in the past. This is not, maybe it hasn't been done in 5 years, but it has been done in the past. The vote, Ms. Dixon?
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
No.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Toby, we're voting on.
This is just for Toby to be nominated, to be in the running for the nomination.
Yes.
Councilmember Pennington?
Yes.
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Abraham?
Yes.
That motion passes. Now there's a nomination on the table for Mark Bartnick and John Kules to be nominated to the Charter Revision Committee for the term that expires 4/30/2021. Discussion on that. Councilman Henderson?
Yeah, we moved last meeting to separate those two names for a separate vote. Is that correct, or is that not how we functioned?
Mr. Bartnick, what happened was Mr. Bartnick and Mr. Kules were moved and seconded in one resolution, and then the Charter Revision Committee was separated from the other city council nominations. The two candidates that Mr. Bartnick and Mr. Kules were not separated from each other. The Charter Revision Committee nominations were separated from the rest of the city council nominations to be voted on separately.
So no matter what would have happened tonight with the addition of the fourth, they would still be handled as separations this evening?
Correct, because the resolution that was moved and seconded last time was for the two candidates that were brought forward by the Mayor Pro Tem to be considered for nomination to the Charter Revision Committee. That resolution was separated from the rest of the nominations that the Mayor Pro Tem brought forward at the last meeting.
So if we vote for this, they will, when the vote comes for nomination, they will be separate.
Correct, because then, assuming that this one passes and Mr. Murray's nomination passes, then you'll have a bank of 4 candidates to choose from for the next vote.
Right. Councilman Henderson.
I'd like to move that we separate those 2 names and vote independently on each of those 2 names.
For the nomination. That's already
For the
been done.
nomination.
That's already been done.
Not for them cooperatively separate, individually separate.
Right, so the motion that would be on the table right now is for those 2 names to be considered as one vote for the charter revision. There will be an opportunity at the next vote, assuming that the 2, Mr. Murray and this resolution passes, that you would have 4 choices. And so you would only be able to move 3 of those people because there's only 3 spots available.
Councilman Baker.
Sorry. When you're saying the next vote, let's say tonight all 4 of these people get, their nominations get moved and seconded and pass. Are we saying the next vote, are you saying at the next meeting when we do the appointments, that's when we do the choice vote between the 4?
That's, council could choose to follow the rules the way they're written and have that vote take place at the next meeting because there is an additional nomination that was made, a new nomination, or council could waive their Rule 16 and consider and take that vote tonight to place those candidates into the positions. If you waive Rule 16, which says that the nominations have to take place at one meeting and the appointments take place at the next meeting, you could vote on it tonight, or you could just follow the rules the way that they're written right now, and then those appointments will come back at the next meeting, and that's when you would do the 3 choice vote.
Councilman Henderson.
I'd like to waive the rules and have that vote this evening.
At this point, you could, but we don't have 4 candidates yet.
Let's get to that after these 2 nominations. So we're voting to place Mark Bartnick and John Kulish into nomination for the Charter Revision Committee that will be voted on later separately as to whether they will be nominated or not.
Correct. If there's 4 candidates, you'll have a choice vote.
On the nomination?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Let's vote on this.
Councilmember Hamilton?
So this is for the 2?
This is for the 2. This is for Mr. Bartnick and Mr. Kulish.
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Councilmember Pennington?
Yes.
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Motion passes. Next on the agenda is the nomination of William Murray to the Charter Revision Committee for the term that expires 4/30/2021.
Support. Or do I need?
You want to move that?
I'd like to move.
It's already been moved and seconded.
Is there any further discussion on Mr. Murray? I have a question for Mayor Pro Tem Abraham. Did you get an opportunity to call? This was postponed till tonight so that you would have an opportunity to call Mr. Murray?
No, I did not have the opportunity. Circumstances prevented me this weekend from doing that. However, let me be clear on why I wanted to contact Mr. Murray. The Charter Amendment Committee is one that doesn't meet often, but given what's occurred in the past year with the Charter Amendment going on the November 2017 ballot, I wanted to have some conversation with him to understand his position on what that measure was. I take it on good faith from Councilman Henderson. You know, if you're supporting him, I know how you felt about the Charter Amendment. I'm putting my trust in you and your judgment, and that you would not recommend someone to the Charter Amendment Committee that wouldn't have compromised the city's position in the way that the Charter Amendment from last year had. So based off of that, unfortunately, I couldn't talk to Mr. Murray. I would have enjoyed the opportunity, but I'm taking it on good faith that he would have had a similar position to Councilman Henderson.
Councilman Henderson.
I called him the next morning and spoke with him, and he said he definitely wanted to be reappointed to the committee. And I didn't ask him that specific question, but to my knowledge, he had no stance whatsoever on that charter amendment in the fall. So I don't recall any commentary from him or his wife regarding the charter amendment.
Any other further discussion on the nomination of William Murray? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
No.
Councilmember Pennington?
Yes.
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Motion passes. Councilman Henderson, did you want to make a motion at this point to waive the rules and have the nomination so we don't have to do this again?
I would love to waive the rules, have us waive the rules so that we can vote on the nominations, all 4 names tonight.
Is there support?
Support.
Moved by Councilman Henderson, supported by Councilman Pennington, that we waive Rule 16, which pertains to waiting till the next council meeting to nominate,
Make the appointment.
make the appointment to the Charter Revision Committee. Discussion? Mayor Pro Tem Abraham.
I'm curious as to why we are would opt to waive the rules tonight when we have not done so on appointments in quite some time. So just curious.
I don't want to speak for Councilman Henderson, but I assume it's to get this issue over with and move on.
I concur, yeah.
Any other discussion?
Mayor,
Councilwoman Hoderick.
my concern with proceeding tonight is I'm remembering dialogue last fall differently than Councilman Henderson does, and I may be misremembering. So my issue with rushing the vote is I'm not sure that I have my facts straight. And in that regard, I don't feel the need to rush a vote tonight. I don't, in fact, I'm uncomfortable waiving the rules because I need to sort it out.
Thank you. Any other discussion on waiving the rules? Councilman Henderson.
Yeah, I don't feel like we're rushing it. We waited 2 weeks to get to this point, and Mr. Murray was readily accessible the very next morning so that I could talk to him about this appointment. So he's well-known. He's been on this committee. Again, I think let's just do this.
Any other discussion? Councilman Hamilton.
The new factor here, though, is the new nomination, which I'm not. The point of this is we nominate, then we do the research, and then we appoint. I haven't done the research on Toby yet, so I don't feel I'm ready to vote on this because of that. That's a new thing brought in. Your point would stand if there wasn't the new nomination, but with the new nomination, I'm not comfortable voting tonight. Let's do our due diligence.
Councilman Henderson.
Yep, well, I got the agenda on Friday, and there's on the private portal shows all the applicants and all the resumes for people that are wanting to be on boards, and Mr. Buechner's resume was on that agenda item.
Mayor Pro Tem Abraham.
I think the difference is that his name wasn't printed on the agenda as a nominee. So while agendas may have been perused for all 20 or so of the committees, there would have been perhaps no particular reason to have emphasis on this particular nomination for this candidate, who I do recall from our council nominations from a couple of years ago. But Councilman Hamilton would not have had that opportunity. Again, One could argue we didn't have to postpone last week's or the last meeting these nominations, so I guess I don't see why we're rushing now when we postponed 2 weeks ago.
Councilman Henderson.
And just one other point. Under the Charter Revision Committee on the agenda, interested applications shows Toby Buechner's name without digging into the confidential portal.
Councilman Pennington.
I've been granted other time, additional time when I've needed it, so I really don't see a problem with granting Councilman Hamilton extra time if he, needs to vet a nomination.
I typically don't have an issue with that either, but we postponed this to 2 weeks to give an opportunity to speak to somebody that never happened, or we wouldn't even be here tonight. Mr. Toby Buechner is well known to the community. I would be surprised if somebody didn't know him or have met him, but I think his resume speaks for himself, personally. Councilman Baker.
I know Toby Buechner very well. I think he's a great guy. So that's beside the point. But I can't. I guess if Councilman Hamilton needs more time and Councilwoman Hoderick needs more time, I'm afraid that there might be a time in a meeting in the near future when I might need more time, and I would be disappointed if I wasn't given that opportunity. So I'd probably have to support postponing it again. But the committee's not meeting anytime soon. I'm taking it. I mean, there's not an issue right now, right?
Any other discussion on the waiving the rules?
Just a clarification, the vote is on waiving the rules to do the appointment tonight.
Correct.
It's not postponing it again. It's just following the typical process.
So, right. So this vote, if you decide to waive the rules, we would do the choice vote this evening. If you decided if the motion failed and the rules were not waived, then the choice vote would come back at the next agenda.
Very good. Thank you.
The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Hoderick?
No.
Councilmember Pennington?
No.
Mayor Slater?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Abraham?
No.
Councilmember Baker?
No.
Councilmember Hamilton?
No.
Councilmember Henderson?
No, I suppose.
Sometimes you make, to move a resolution, and sometimes you change your mind when you've listened to what everybody else has to say. Next on the agenda are board and committee appointments. I'll defer to Mayor Pro Tem Abraham.
There were, I believe, 3 appointments. So the first set of appointments are for the election committee, for David Anderson for the term expiring January 31st, 2019, and Harry Philo for the term expiring January 31st, 2019. For the Historic District Commission, John Adams for the term expiring May 15th, 2021, and Tim McGee for the term expiring May 15th, 2021. And for the Personnel Board, Pamela Gordon for the term expiring April 30th, 2021, and Jane Parpart for the term expiring April 30th, 2021. Oh, and my apologies, one more. Zoning Board of Appeals for Glenn Clark for the term expiring April 30th, 2021.
Support.
What was that? Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Abraham, supported by Councilman Hamilton, that we appoint David Anderson, Harry Philo to the election committee for the term that expires 1/31/2019, John Adams, Tim McGee to the Historic District Commission for the term that expires 5/15/2021, Pamela Gordon and Jane Parpart to the Personnel Board for the terms that expire 4/30/2021, and Glenn Clark to the Zoning Board of Appeals for the term that expires 4/30/2021. Any discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Pennington?
Yes.
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Motion passes, and thanks for those citizens that have stepped forward and volunteered to be on the committee. I2 are board and committee nominations. There are no mayoral nominations this evening. City Council?
I do have one nomination, Mayor. It is for the Employees Retirement System Board of Trustees and Retiree Healthcare Benefits Plan and Trust, and it is for the City Council representative. Councilman Henderson has declined reappointment, so I would like to nominate Councilman David Hamilton to that position.
Support.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Abraham, supported by Councilwoman Hoderick, that we nominate Councilman Hamilton as the City Council rep to the Employees Retirement System Board of Trustees / Retirement Healthcare Benefits Plan and Trust. Councilman Baker.
I'm assuming you've talked to Councilman Hamilton. I know you work a real job. So are you able to make the meetings? Because I believe they're during the day.
Yeah, I switched my work from home day from Monday to Wednesday, so I'm good now.
Just checking.
Do I not vote on this because I'm the nominee? Or is that okay?
City Attorney Bloom.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Because it is a city council representative, you are able to vote on your name as
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon?
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Councilmember Pennington?
Yes.
Thank you.
Just a comment. I think we owe a thanks to Councilman Henderson for being on that board. That board went through a lot of changes, and it runs on itself now. And Councilman Henderson was the proponent behind hiring a firm that knows how to deal with handling retirement funds, and I just want to say thanks. It was a great decision, especially as a retiree. I want to thank you for what you did.
My pleasure.
I3, there is no request for a closed session this evening, so we move to I4, which is a standard purchasing resolution 8, best value award for janitorial services citywide and budget amendment. And I see Dennis Tretham, our Facilities and Grounds Operations Manager, is here to make an introduction.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I stand before you today with the opportunity to present what we feel as a committee is the best value for janitorial services within the city. When I began my position in October, I was commissioned with 2 tasks right out of the gate. The first task was to familiarize myself with the facilities condition assessment analysis, which is nearing an end. The second task was to begin familiarizing myself with the janitorial services contract, which was coming to expire in June 30th. So for the discovery process, I sat down and I reviewed the existing contract by reading through and looking at what was the scope of work, what was the criteria. And over the course of the last 11 years, that scope of work and criteria and the needs within the city have certainly changed. During that process, I sat down and I met with each department. I met with the library, I met with the court, I met with the police department and fire personnel to kind of see what their highlights and what their lowlights were of the existing contractors and see if there was anything that we could remedy. For the lowlights, we sat down and we assessed together, was it a problem of a poor contract? Were there issues a result of poor contract management? Or were there issues of just a poor contractor? After I met with each facility, I toured the facilities looking at the conditions, and to say that I was surprised at the level of difference between each facility as to how they were maintained would be an understatement. The library, the community center, which are very much community-facing facilities, were maintained at a much different level than City Hall, than the district court, in a lot of ways than the police department. So once I determined the facilities, the differences within the facilities, I reached out to the existing contractors to try to schedule a meeting with them. 2 of the 3 were fairly responsive. The third one, it took me over 6 months to schedule a meeting with to address the deficiencies. And it was only after the bid was let to the street that I was actually able to schedule that meeting. So we go to the RFP process. Our proposal contains several options. So a lot of that information came out of the meeting with the janitorial, with the city representatives from each facility. Proposal A was to provide janitorial services to each of the 16 facilities that were currently serviced by the contractor. Proposal B was to establish a baseline cleaning. Some of our facilities would need cleaning to bring them up to an acceptable standard so we can hold the new contractor to a standard of clean. Proposal C was a casual labor rate, should we need to provide additional day porter service or custodial type work at any given time. It also included furniture moving, that we could pick up the phone and call someone in for assistance with office renovations, relocations, or rearrangements of office suites. The third one was the price per square foot. It was important to us to secure a price per square foot should we incur additional square footage during the life of the contract to get that cost locked in at the current time. Proposal D was a result of the meeting with the fire department where they expressed an interest of having an annual exterior and apparatus bay cleaning, which hasn't been part of any custodial contract in the past. Proposal E was pricing to provide restroom consumable supplies, toilet tissue, hand towels, soap, which are currently distributed by my facility and the grounds department, and we felt that was an efficiency that we could gain if the cost wasn't too great. And then proposal F, there's been a lot of discussion lately about adding a 7th day to the library. So we felt that this may come up in the term of the contract, and we would like to lock in a price at this time so we knew what a true cost of a 7-day operation library would be. We received 7 proposals from Cristal Cleaning, Do All Cleaning Incorporated, GDI Integrated Facility Services, Commercial Sanitation Management Services, Giant Janitorial, the DM Berg Group, and LGC Global. The proposals were reviewed and scored by a 6-member committee, which included key players, representatives from the library, Philip Quick, Community Center, Brian Gould, Police Department was represented by Lieutenant Robert Wolf, Fire Tech, Eric Emmons represented the Fire Department, Laura Campbell represented Facilities Grounds as kind of the call center. She would be the person who took the issues and the problems that arose in the past. And then I represented the remaining facilities that didn't have a liaison. We interviewed the top 4 companies, which were Giant Janitorial, Do All Cleaning, LGC Global, and DM Burr. We went to the assessment of providers. What experience and knowledge do they have? How do they train their employees? Do they only train their employees for onboarding, or is it continual ongoing training to continually provide a better result to the city? How was their oral interview? Were we able to vet out some of the questions and concerns that we had during the oral process? While cost was a factor, it wasn't the deciding factor. Overall value of service was what was most important to us. Our qualifications were, do they have current contracts that they maintain with a similar square footage and spread out facilities? Were they currently supplying services to a municipality? What was their proposed plan and methodology? How are they going to staff our account? How are they going to fill vacancies when they arise? What's their hiring process? We did require that all janitorial staff this time were lean background qualified, so we could use them in any facility at any given time as needed. What was their transition plan? Were they able to start with July 1st? Our current contract expires June 30th, so it's imperative that we have a July 1st start. What were their references? What did the references have to say about their account managers? It's important to realize that the key to a outsourced custodial contract is the account manager. How responsive are they? How available are they? How were their vacancies filled? Were they filled in a timely manner? These were things that I vetted during the reference process. Did the Facilities have to go a long time before they were staffed. So it's with that we recommend the DM Burr Group of Flint, Michigan at a cost not to exceed $677,538, which will require an overall budget amendment of $106,790. To note that this cost also includes $91,815 for the facility that's leased to the Oakland County 52-4 District Court. In September 2018, the contract was renegotiated somewhat hastily and without any regard to future needs or increases, causing us to only be able to capture $45,880 with the allotted 6% increase annually, which would have left the City of Troy subsidizing Oakland County $43,182. On May 30th, the city administration met with Oakland County representatives and court administration to try to look for a mutually agreeable resolution to our problem at hand. And I'm pleased to say that this afternoon at about 1 o'clock, I received an email from the Oakland County Director of Facilities Management stating that he was taking a resolution to their board in July for the full burden cost, so the City of Troy will not have to subsidize anyone. That will take effect August 1st with the retro payment back to cover July 1st, so we will be out of pocket, nothing from a subsidy standpoint. I can entertain any questions, and DM Burr is present tonight if you have any questions for the contractor.
Thank you. Any questions? Councilman Baker?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
Yes.
For a good presentation. I appreciated seeing that, and obviously cleanliness in our public facilities is very, very important. And we've heard about at our budget study session some of the, I don't know if horrors are the right word, but some of the less desirable things that were taking place. I guess my question, you kind of just answered it with the not having to subsidize Oakland County.
Yep.
So if I heard you right, $91,000 of that budget amendment for the $106,790 was for the courthouse, is that correct?
No, the $91,815 is what the court costs for cleaning. Currently, it's budgeted at $45,880. So the courts will make up the difference.
Okay, so we still need the budget amendment of
Correct.
$106,000.
Yes.
And that's for how many years are we doing that?
3 years with three-year renewal options.
Okay, so there's I was wondering if some of that initial this year charge was due to the deep cleaning that needs to be done to get things up to a certain level, but it's not, it's part of the...
Correct. It was determined that with this vendor that we were able to work out much of the deep cleaning if we were willing to be a little bit more patient, and we wouldn't have to expend that extra cost.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Henderson?
I'd like to move I-4, Standard Purchasing Resolution 8, Best Value Award, Janitorial Services Citywide, and Budget Amendment.
Support.
Moved by Councilman Henderson, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Abraham, that we approve I-4, the Standard Purchasing Resolution 8, Best Value Award, Janitorial Services Citywide, and Budget Amendment as printed in the agenda packet. Further discussion, Councilman Baker?
Thanks again, Mayor. Again, I think this is a very important step for our city and something that definitely needs to be done. But I just want to point out how easy it can be done for this council to add $100,000 to the budget out of the general fund. We talk about this a lot. I've talked about the library. I've talked about a lot of things. But here we are amending the budget tonight for another $106,000 a year for 3 years at least. So I get the value of it, and I have no problem approving this because I think you're going to be a great service for our city. But when I've been chastised for being irresponsible with talking about increasing the budget in any way, I think it's important to talk about how many times we do this throughout the year and make budget amendments. So I just would like everyone to keep that in mind.
Well, my comment to that is I think it depends on what you're spending the money on. And we may share different opinions as to what it should be spent on. The vote, Ms. Dixon?
Mayor Pro Tem Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Councilmember Pennington?
Yes.
Mayor Slater?
Yes. Thank you for your hard work. Great presentation. I know you put a lot of work into it. I-5 is the proposed revision to the City Council Rules of Procedure. City Clerk Dixon.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This is the requested revision to the council rules that was requested at the last meeting for rule number 10, proclamations, which we've revised to read proclamations and congratulatory certificates to differentiate between proclamations presented at council meetings and certificates presented to businesses and such at ribbon cuts and things like that. The proclamations item has been revised to show that there would be a 2-meeting process for proclamations to be approved by City Council and then presented at a future meeting, and then certificates do not need to be presented at regular meetings or approved by council. They would just be presented in the public somewhere.
Thank you. I think that accomplishes at least the intent that I think we discussed. And we can always amend the rules to deal with a proclamation that may come up sooner than the 2 weeks that we need. So there's a solution to that too. So I'll move the resolution I-5, proposed revision to City Council Rules of Procedure as printed.
Support.
By the Chair, supported by Councilman Henderson, that we approve I-5, the proposed revision to City Council Rules of Procedure as printed. Discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon?
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Councilmember Pennington?
Yes.
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Abraham?
Yes.
Motion passes. Thanks, City Attorney Bloom. I'm sure you and City Clerk Dixon worked on that. Thank you.
Stewart and Mr. Miller as well.
I-6, Standard Purchasing Resolution 8, Best Value Award Executive Search for City Management or Manager. City Attorney Bloom, did you want to?
Mayor, I'm
Influencing.
available since it was covered
Okay.
in our 5 o'clock study session. I'm not sure that there's much more that I can present, but I'm available to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Council want to move a resolution to get it on the table for discussion. Councilman Baker.
I'd like to move I-6, Standard Purchasing Resolution 8, Best Value Award, Executive Search for City Manager. Resolved that Troy City Council hereby awards a contract as a result of the best value process to the executive search firm GovHR USA of Northbrook, Illinois, at the proposal pricing contained in the bid tabulation, a copy of which shall be attached to the original minutes of this meeting. Be it finally resolved that the award is contingent upon the firm's submission of properly executed proposal and contract documents, satisfactory references, insurance certificates, and all other specified requirements.
Support.
Moved by Councilman Baker, supported by Councilman Henderson, that we approve I-6, the Standard Purchasing Resolution 8, Best Value Award, Executive Search for the City Manager, as read into the record by Councilman Baker. Councilwoman Hoderick.
If you're just watching this now, you may not be aware that we actually met at 5 o'clock in an open meeting where we interviewed the 3 prospective search firms. And quite honestly, we were impressed with all 3, very appreciative of the 3 of them for coming in, and very glad that we had the opportunity to talk to them. Many thanks to everyone involved in the process, purchasing manager, Mary Beth Merce, and the RFP process. City Attorney, I know that you've helped facilitate this, and behind the scenes there's a great deal of careful detail that is being paid attention to, and I just really appreciate that. And it's a process that's going to be very, very important for us, and there was a lot of really thoughtful discussion in that session. I thought we had great dialogue amongst ourselves, and we will want the input of the community, and this will be very valuable to us. And I'm impressed with who we're voting on here tonight and everything that they can bring.
Thank you. Any other comments from council? I would just encourage everyone that is interested to watch the study session, because I think you'll see some great firms and some good discussion as pointed out. The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Councilmember Pennington?
Yes.
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Motion passes. Congratulations, and now the work starts. Next is the consent agenda. Anyone on council wish to pull a consent agenda item this evening? Councilman Henderson?
I'd like to move all items on the consent agenda as printed.
Support.
Moved by Councilman Henderson, supported by Councilman Hamilton, that we approve all items on the consent agenda as presented. Any discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon?
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Councilmember Pennington?
Yes.
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Motion passes. If you're here on a consent agenda item this evening, they've all been approved. Next are memorandums and future council agenda items. There are none this evening. So we will move to public comment for items not on the agenda from Troy residents and businesses. I'll call upon Doreen Rosen, Troy resident, who wishes to speak. Good evening.
Hello. I'm Doreen Mawson, and I've been a resident for 45 years. So I've kind of watched Troy grow up. Anyway, I am here because I have a weed problem. I have made up little pamphlets, and they'll be in your mailbox tomorrow. I want hello to everybody. I'm not used to doing this, but my weed problem started with my backyard neighbor probably 5 years ago, when she decided to let her area that she used to keep landscaped, that is 80 feet wide by about 8 to 10 feet deep, go back to nature. And so what came in were weeds, weed trees, and garlic mustard, which is a very invasive plant. Not knowing what it was, it grew to be like this. So I think I called the city back then, and they came out to get her to get rid of the weeds. That was Gary Bowers, great inspector. And I don't know what he said to her, but she started to clean up her act. It took 3 years, so I must have sent her three letters, but she hasn't done anything since. And so when you look at your pamphlets, go to the back of it, and you will see pictures of her yard. And anything you see that's green is garlic mustard. It grows. The first year it's harmless. The second year it flowers. And when it flowers, it seeds. And each plant will cast off 3,000 seeds. A lot of them stay dormant for years. And I am told that if you treat it to kill it, you can only kill what's above ground. The seeds that are still in the ground aren't, you can't get to them. So to kill this weed, it takes 8 to 10 years. Now, I'm 80 years old, guys. I'm not going to live that long to get rid of it. But I finally Googled it because it kept coming back, and so I put in invasive weed and ended up with the state of Michigan. Talked to them, and I got educated about the weed. And so every time it rains and every season, it will come back. And I will not kid you when I tell you that I have picked up probably over 1,000 little seedlings that I didn't want to spread the invitation that I have to the neighbors, but it's already there. My minutes are up. Anyway, I encourage...
Can you wrap it up in about 30 seconds?
Yes.
I'll ask council to waive the rules.
Okay. In your packet, it states that if you will join SISMA, which is the unit for invasive weeds, and partner up with them. Troy is not included. Royal Oak, Rochester is. There's a lot of information, a lot of great information. and maybe give the copies to your inspectors. I don't think anybody knows what it was. So anything you can do, I would appreciate. And any advice, I also would appreciate. Thank you.
Well, if you want to have a seat, I think after this meeting, somebody from staff will come over and speak to you about this. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
I share your pain, believe me, I do.
Well, you know, I'm trying to keep Troy beautiful.
I think we all appreciate that. But if you just, this meeting will be over probably in about 10 minutes. If you would just hang around, I think somebody from staff will sit and
Thank
come
you
talk to
very much, Mayor.
Thank you. That concludes those that have signed up to speak for items not on the agenda from Troy residents and businesses. Any response from administration? I could speak for an hour. I share, you know, Councilman Baker.
Garlic mustard is a very invasive weed. I live near the nature center, and unfortunately, we just passed the season when you're supposed to pick it and dispose of it. It happens in May, generally. But to dispose of it, you have to dispose of it in garbage bags and put it out with your garbage. You can't put it in the compost, or it makes the problem worse. So she's right. The first year is actually the best time to pull it because it's not flowering or dropping any seeds. But if you can get rid of it by the root then and dispose of it in garbage bags, that's the best. But it will take over and move from me to you in a year easily if you don't do anything about it. So it's important in the city. From a neighbor standpoint, it's actually kind of a pretty weed. People don't realize it's a weed, but if you see a picture of it, you'll know if you have it in your yard, and you should make every effort to get rid of it, because if you let it go too long, it'll take over all of your yard and your neighbor's yard. And now I sound like I'm doing a scare tactic, but it is a very invasive weed. So, thank you.
No, I share your frustration, not just for that weed, but for other people that, about other people's, that try to make their property look nice, and other people let their grass grow to the point where the city has to get called to come in and do something about it. I know council a few years ago, we reduced the inches, and it still seems too high to me. I would ask if I don't know if council agrees, but if there's something that we can join that other cities are doing, I'd be interested in that information if you could just get that info. Mr. Miller?
Yeah, I'll talk to the woman about that and get the information about joining, but I would like to make a comment about, we're in the weed season right now, to be honest.
I know.
And just to remind council that this is the second budget in which we have a seasonal employee who just enforces, tall grass and noxious weeds, so then the other ordinance enforcement officers can concentrate on everything else. Because everyone knows if you have a yard, man, grass and weeds are going crazy right now until we get to the more drier part of summer and it slows down.
Understood. It's just very frustrating to live next to somebody that doesn't share.
And one more thing, and if anyone on council or anyone in the audience, please call the planning department and report tall weeds. We will enforce our ordinances, and if they don't cut down the weeds, we will do it and then place a lien on their property.
Thank you. Hang in there, somebody will talk to you in a little bit. Thanks. Next are council referrals. N1 is a council referral from Councilmember Hamilton, resolution to recommend the Regional Transit Authority, better known as RTA, put the Connect Southeast Michigan plan on the November 2018 ballot. I'll defer to Councilman Hamilton.
Thank you, Mayor Syke. I'll move the resolution to recommend the RTA put the Connect Southeast Michigan plan on the November 2018 ballot. Whereas Public Act 387 of 2012 MCL 124.541 ETSEC created the Regional Transit Authority Act, which established a new regional transit authority within a defined public transit region, which composed of Wayne, Oakland, Macomb, and Washtenaw counties. And whereas the RTA serves as a planning and coordinating agency with respect to the providers of public transportation services within the region, and whereas the RTA has authority to coordinate operating and capital transit plans and levy a property tax assessment and or local option vehicle registration tax within the public transit region under specific conditions established under Section 10 of the Act. And whereas, according to the Detroit Regional Chamber and the RTA Board, the lack of a truly regional, cohesive public transit system is holding back Southeast Michigan. And whereas a robust transit system can attract development, businesses, tourism, and conventions, it helps connect people to jobs, making the region more economically prosperous and competitive. And whereas the RTA's Connect Southeast Michigan addresses the region's economic and demographic concerns, providing Oakland County an opportunity to provide convenience and connect people with jobs, as well as attracting and retaining young talent. And whereas a coalition of 23 regional CEOs representing most of the largest companies in Metro Detroit are in support of the Connect Southeast Michigan Regional Mass Transit Plan. These include CEOs from DTE Energy, Rock Ventures, Ralph S. Wilson Jr. Foundation, Ford Motor Company, Illich Holdings, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan, Michigan Capital Partners, Strategic Staffing Solutions, the Kresge Foundation, Lear Corporation, General Motors, American Axle, Quicken Loans, Henry Ford Health System, Masco, PVS Chemicals, Penske Corporation, Detroit Medical Center, Beaumont Health, Taubman Centers Incorporated, and Forbes Company. And whereas the 23 regional CEO coalition has weighed in and believe public policy transportation issues are crippling the region's economic recovery and progress. Whereas the American Public Transportation Association has conducted studies to find that for every $1 invested in public transportation generates $4 in economic returns, and for every $1 billion invested in public transportation supports and creates more than 50,000 jobs, and for every $10 million in capital investment in public transportation yields $30 million in increased business sales, and home values perform 42% better on average if they were located near public transportation with high-frequency service. Whereas, according to chief executives of Beaumont Hospital, Ascension Michigan, Detroit Medical Center, and Henry Ford Health System, affordable and accessible transit boosts public health by making communities more walkable, providing greater ability to access health services and quality food. The region's lack of transit increases the number of missed appointments, causing delays in care that often result in emergency room visits that put patients at unnecessary risk. In addition, transit barriers inhibit patients from filling prescriptions, which can result in missed work days, increased healthcare costs, and damage long-term health in our region. And whereas the RTA's Connect Southeast Michigan plan has identified the projected economic impacts to the Southeast Michigan region over a 20-year period from 2018 to 2037, these projections include support of 67,000 new regional jobs and added $6.6 billion in gross regional product, and support increases to personal income of $4.5 billion. And whereas the RTA's Connect Southeast Michigan Mass Transit Plan could be used to leverage $1.3 billion in fares, as well as state and federal funds, to build a better connected and more expansive transit system for Oakland County and regional residents. Now therefore be it resolved that the Troy City Council calls upon the Oakland County appointees to the Regional Transit Authority to approve a November ballot vote for the region identified in the Connect Southeast Michigan Mass Transit Plan. Be it further resolved that the Troy Clerk is requested to forward copies of this adopted resolution to members of the Regional Transit Authority Board of Directors, the members of the Oakland County, Michigan Legislative Delegation, and the Oakland County Executive and the Oakland County Board of Commissioners.
Support.
Moved by Councilman Hamilton, supported by Councilwoman Hoderick, that we approve N1, which is a council referral from Councilmember Hamilton, the resolution to recommend the RTA to put the Connect Southeast Michigan plan on the November 2018 ballot as printed and read, and I'm losing my voice. Discussion. Councilman Hamilton.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm putting forth this resolution because there is a deep need for a detailed transit plan in Southeast Michigan. As an automotive engineer, I know the benefits of an effective plan. Reduce traffic and congestion for everyone driving on our roads, not just people that use the service. There's more travel options for seniors and disabled folks. It allows our businesses to recruit more talented employees throughout the region, and allows residents more options to get where they need to go and reduce travel costs. As read in the resolution, the jobs created directly due to the transit operation and capital itself would be substantial, and the jobs created due to economic efficiency of our businesses, making us more competitive on the international market, would be substantial. My point is there is a deep need for this kind of transformative plan in Troy and Southeast Michigan. I'm not here today to say this is the perfect plan or even the right plan, but just that it's a plan trying to address this. And it's my duty to provide our voters options that have the potential to solve problems and improve our lives. The RTA plan in 2016 was 523 votes shy from being approved in Troy. There's clearly a great number of Troy residents who want this. Let's give them another option to solve this problem and let the people decide if this is the right solution. I know the cost of 1.5 mils is significant, and the benefits are significant as well. I'm not here to say it's worth it. It's not my decision. Let's just let our residents evaluate this plan and decide for themselves if they support it. I ask my fellow council members to join me in voting yes and encouraging the RTA to allow the people to decide. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Hoderick, do you have something?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Everything that Councilman Hamilton said, I'm supporting this resolution. Just simply put, there is a clear business case combined with an absolute moral imperative. Just think of the story of Walking Man, the gentleman that was covered walking 21 miles. To not only allow voters the opportunity to vote on regional transit, but also to really encourage everyone to research and understand the economic benefits this would provide our region. When you see the number of leaders coming forward and locking arms in a common dialogue, that speaks volumes and should at least nudge every single individual to look at this. If you're going to vote no, know why you're voting no, and if you're voting yes, why you're voting yes, but to really participate in educating yourselves as you go forward. All 140 Southeast Michigan communities have line items for transit in them. Right now, it's our tax dollars being inefficiently in a hodgepodge, Swiss cheese kind of situation. Our tax dollars are not being leveraged to the fullest extent. It isn't the perfect plan, but as one leader out there was saying, don't let the perfect get in the way of the good. We need to take steps forward, and just the ability to explore this and vote on it is a huge, huge deal for our region. And I'm really glad you brought forward this resolution and feel proud to support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councilman Baker?
I'm always in favor of letting people vote on things. I think on this kind of situation, obviously they have to for a millage increase. I guess where I question the value of us putting this resolution forward, what it does it move any needle with the RTA? Do they get this from the city of Troy and say, oh, okay, it was approved. We're going to do it now because Troy says so. We had a long conversation recently about, what kind of things we should be getting involved in as a local government, city council. Arguably, there's an argument to be made here that this does affect the city of Troy, but this is also a hot button issue in the county, especially actually in all 4 counties, more so in the northern 2 counties. And I'm not sure it's wise for us to be throwing ourselves in the middle of this when we haven't been asked. We did get some mail today, ironically, about this, providing information to us as a council. I don't know that I'm feeling comfortable voting on this at this point to say, yes, I throw my support behind this. You've said it's not a perfect plan. I'm not looking for a perfect plan, but I don't feel necessarily comfortable putting my name on a resolution that is a plan that I'm not familiar enough with to say, yes, I think you should be doing this and putting it on the ballot. And ultimately, it's a tax increase request, and there's stated values and why it should be done, but I don't know that we move the needle by doing this, and I don't think it's right for us to be getting involved in such a hot topic when we're not going to make the difference, in my opinion. But thank you for bringing it forward, and it's definitely something that should be talked about in our community, and it is being talked about already.
Councilman Pennington?
I have to agree with Councilman Baker. It seems to me it's a partisan issue that I don't know if we should be getting involved with that. But I actually have a question for Tom Darling, and if it's 1.5 mils, approximately how much would that be for every household in Troy?
Per household?
Yeah.
I'll get back with you.
Oh, okay. Come on, I thought you were a wizard. I figured you'd have that. Go ahead.
Yeah, the median for the county would be $150 a year, so like $12 a month for the median household. So half more than that, half below that.
Well, when we were asking for 1 mil for the library, I think it was $40. Give or take a little bit, depending on who was fudging the numbers. Councilman Henderson.
Yeah, I agree with elements of what Councilman Baker had to say. Again, last meeting we had a hot button issue. This is another hot button issue. I tend to stay out of school board millage proposals. I don't like to mix all those kinds of business with our own city business. So for that reason, I won't support this. I also I kind of get a little itchy when I see claims. I'm gonna read this section. And home values perform 42% better on average if they were located near public transportation. That's the same story we heard about the transit center. Only those claims were more like 500% increases in house values next to the train station. That never happened. It never will happen. And these kind of claims, yeah, they can find probably situations throughout the country that can support some of those numbers, but it doesn't happen in all cases. And simply having a bus transportation, because we're not going to build train stations and tracks coming from everywhere like they have in Chicago, I don't know that better bus service is going to provide that sort of increase in those kind of things. So I'm not a firm believer in this. Let the people decide, but I certainly don't want to put my name behind putting this kind of thing back to whoever needs to put this on a ballot.
Mayor Pro Tem Hoderick?
Abraham.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. Thank you, Mayor. It's always interesting dialogue when we talk about what do we want to get ourselves involved in as a council, whether it's a state issue or a regional issue, or clearly if it's a city issue, that's on us. Just a few months ago, we took up a resolution to send to Lansing because we felt strongly about protecting pension and for municipal workers, and particularly those in law enforcement and first responders. And technically that wasn't anything that anyone asked us to get involved in. It was one because that we unanimously agreed was important because it impacted the city. I see regional transportation as an issue that does affect Troy, not just at a state level or a regional level. It affects us at a regional and a city level. Very rarely do you get 23 CEOs from divergent industries agreeing that this is something that the conversation needs to be furthered. And I think having this on the November ballot would be appropriate to further that conversation. We live in Southeast Michigan, and the automotive industry is one that has deep roots. I can't think of any one of us here at this table that doesn't have a family member or a close friend that's been part of this industry. But transportation is changing. 5 years ago, who would have guessed that Uber and Lyft would be viable alternatives to taxis or car rentals? But that's how fast the industry is changing. It's transportation as a service, not a commodity. That's how they're thinking of it. So when you get 23 CEOs agreeing that we need to look at transportation a lot more holistically, I think that that's a very compelling argument to keep that conversation moving forward. And it's something that I think we should, as leaders of the community, take a stand on. I don't see this as an issue of the left or an issue of the right. Again, 23 CEOs, very divergent companies or foundations. They're not involving themselves usually on something that's a hot button issue if it's partisan. This is not a partisan issue, it's a regional issue, it's a statewide issue, and it's one that we can't be afraid to have. I think the voters need to speak on it, and if it gets voted down in November, so be it. But I think to cut it off before voters have the opportunity to speak would be a wasted opportunity. So I will be supporting this resolution.
Thank you. Go to me and then we'll do it again. I think I've been the mayor for more than a year, I think, but maybe seems like 40. So it seems like 40. But I've made it known to anybody that I support RTA, I support regional transit, but it's really not about me and how I feel and whether I support it or I don't support it. I'll vote for it if it comes up, if I'm given an opportunity. I don't know that we needed to say all this in the resolution, but I do almost always support giving the public an opportunity to voice their opinion and their vote. So I really don't understand why you would be against letting the people speak. It's not you're not asking them how to vote. You're just asking them to give an opportunity to vote, and so it's pretty simple for me. You're just asking them for an opportunity to vote on something. That was a very close vote to begin with. So I'll support the resolution. I don't know that we had to say all of this, but give the people a chance to vote. What's wrong with that? Councilman Baker.
I just want to say, voting no on this is not letting the people have a chance to vote. No part of me is saying I don't want the people to vote. I've been very clear about charter amendments and things like that having the people of the community vote is very important. I just think this issue is particularly pointed in our area, in this county especially, and I don't think that Troy City Council should be taking a stand on this particular issue at this time. Of course, people should be able to vote, and I'm confident that if this were voted down, they're likely going to have the chance to vote anyway, and that this is not. But if this is voted in, I don't think it's going to move the needle either. So I just don't see it as something we should be doing at this point. But again, I appreciate it, and your passion for it is clear, as is. And Councilwoman Hoderick often speaks of this issue, and I know this means a lot to her in that respect. So, Mayor, I hadn't heard you speak on that, but I see where you stand as well.
If I could, before I forgot, I've had an issue with my email for the last 5 days, and I did receive a letter from Nancy Sussex, the president of Troy Beaumont Hospital, asking the City Council to support this resolution. To me, she's an important voice in our community, and I wanted to share that. I didn't get an opportunity to send that to Council. I will as soon as I can, but she wrote me a nice letter asking us to support the resolution. I also got a note from Pastor Bob asking us to support it that I didn't get a chance to send that also. So, Councilman Henderson.
So there's roughly 14 paragraphs written in this thing, and I'm kind of curious where it came from, who it originated from. I know it came from Councilman Hamilton, but I'm going to assume that you didn't write 14 paragraphs?
No, it was...
Councilman Hamilton?
Sure, it was Oakland County Commissioners are putting the same resolution up.
Okay.
And it's getting bipartisan support, so I just got it from them.
And if I can ask Councilman Hamilton a follow-up, sure. Is there a reason to believe that this is not going to be on a ballot in November?
Well, the county executives from Macomb and Oakland have spoken in opposition, while others have spoken in support. So it's up to the RTA board itself. There's 9 members, 7 of them have to support it, 1 from each county. So it's really up to them whether this goes on the ballot. They have until, I think, August 15th to make the decision if it goes on the ballot or not. So we're just giving them our voice of support to get those 7 votes to get it on the ballot.
And one last follow-up. Then by bringing this forward, you believe that it's probably not going to pass? That they're going to put this on the ballot, or?
I'm not sure. It's close because the one a year and a half ago was so razor close that it failed that they may decide to just do it. It's unknown if it's going to come or not.
Councilwoman Hoderick?
I think this is a good dialogue as to why would we voice this, and this is not a partisan issue. We have a transit center in our community, and we are in a position to give voice to the possibilities that a better coordinated regional transit plan could bring to Troy. This matters for this city. To not have a coordinated RTA and our residents and the people here to have a voice in that, to not put it on the ballot, just defies logic to me. When we are out at ribbon cuttings at businesses, there's 220 Southeast Michigan employers who are saying, just let the entire region vote on this. And there's a reason they're speaking to it, and we've heard it in our ribbon cuttings at businesses around here. When we go to them and they're opening up an office, taking over 2 or 3 floors in one of our office buildings, and you talk to them and say, what else could be here? What more are you looking for? And they'll say, the ability to hire people here without a transit option, a viable one, not a patchwork one. We do have issues. Hopefully that's something that will come down the pipeline. So this is just a common sense discussion about how do we move the needle forward. And Governor Snyder was an advocate for RTA. There are a number of Republicans advocating for it from an economic standpoint. Yes, you hear the Democrats talk about it as well, more from that social justice and movement of people aspect. There's a bipartisan view of this, and the resolution really is just encouraging and giving voice to the fact that let's let our people vote. By sending this forward, we give voice to the ability of the people that we represent to give voice to a very important topic and encourage them to do their research and give the voice. And I think that's an important role for us to do as leaders in the community.
Do we need to say any more? Mr. Darling?
Thank you, Mayor. In answer to Councilmember Pennington's question on the cost of 1.5 mils to the average residential household will be approximately $175.29.
Thank you.
What took so long?
Ready for a vote? Vote, Ms. Dixon?
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Councilmember Pennington?
No.
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
No.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
No. Motion passes. Next are council comments. Mayor Pro Tem Abraham.
I wanted to encourage everyone. We presented had a presentation on OPAFest and wanted to encourage everyone to participate June 20th through the 23rd, I believe it was. If only for the food, it would be worthwhile. But the activities, the cultural experience is phenomenal. And if you haven't taken a tour of the church, it is breathtaking. So I encourage you all to go. If you do take the opportunity to go, I would also highly encourage you to do the cheek swab for Be the Match. It is a painless test, and the opportunities to save someone's life are immense. There are at least 3 of us on council who have family members that could have benefited from a bone marrow transplant, and one did. So if you have it in you, if you are of good health, I would encourage you, if you're already there, after you have your baklava, head over to the match table, and you can be a hero to an entire family.
Thank you. Councilman Baker?
Actually, I'm going to speak to that just briefly. It was my nephew who had AML leukemia who benefited from a random bone match person who happened to be overseas in the military when the match was found. So it is amazing what can be done, and this was just some young guy who had done it and donated, and my nephew, this was a couple years ago, had the transplant. So it can save a life, and it's very important, and it is a painless test and not
invasive
at all what you sound. I mean, cheek swap even sounds more invasive than it is. I mean,
take a Q-tip.
Yeah, it is. So I would definitely encourage you that as well. I had another comment, which is going to sound a bit ironic from the conversation we just had, but House Bill, the State House Bill 5754 and 5755 was introduced, which is relating to backflow testing, which is something we've talked a lot about on this council. Our representative, Martin Hawrelak, introduced this bill to change the testing period to 5 years for most cases, as opposed to the 3 that it is now. We just are going through our second round of those this year. There will be a hearing on that bill on Wednesday. I'm not asking for a resolution in support of that, but I just will say in 2014, this council, or it was a different version of the council, but supported Representative McCready's bill unanimously to change it to 10 years. The governor actually vetoed that bill, but it is something that does affect a lot of Michigan residents, and when those backflow notices go out, it does bring up. So I'd encourage all of you on council to look into that bill, see if something you could lend your voice to in some respect. It's something I think that would be good for our city and its residents. I had asked at the last meeting about the ability to name rooms in the Troy Community Center, perhaps for Jim Warpatinsky, and also some signage issues regarding the senior component of the community center. I don't know if there hasn't been an answer provided. I'm just making sure that's still something that can be dealt with. And then I had one last question related. The senior Friends of Troy Seniors also asked if it's possible to plant a tree on the city grounds in honor of Jim, and I don't know the policy for doing that, and if a plaque can go on the tree or something like that on city grounds. So if I could have that included with the answer, I'd be very appreciative.
Any other council comments? Councilman Hamilton.
I attended the first Troy Farmers Market last Friday. It's from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. in the Troy Public Library parking lot. Got myself some nice veggies for my wife, and there was a monsoon, and I hid under the stand that had brownies, so I had to have a few brownies. I encourage everyone to go there. As the season goes on, they'll start getting more produce as it becomes more in season, and it's going to keep growing. And how many people were there?
Over 1,100.
1,100 people came Friday to the first one, so it's spectacular. They have a band playing. I think they had some kind of contest going on or something. I didn't do it, but it was fantastic. So please attend the Troy Farmers Market. Oh, and the reason that we do it only on Friday is there's so many other farmers markets on Saturday that it would steal all the competition away. So Friday is the perfect slot for us. So I was getting asked about that.
Okay. Any comments? Next are reports. Any council comment on the reports that are in the agenda packet this evening? Mayor Pro Tem Abraham.
I wanted to call attention to P3A, letter of appreciation to Mayor Slater from the governor regarding participation in the regional asset management pilot. It's wonderful that you were asked to participate, Mayor, and I think there's a lot of good work that could come out of that, and I didn't know if you had any comments that you might want to share on that experience.
I'll defer to Mr. Miller.
What we can do is we'll prepare a report and put it on the next agenda how we participate and what the product is.
Okay.
Very good.
Thank you.
It was more of a thank you letter to the mayor while staff participated.
You get the glory.
It's one of those examples where I get the positive because of good work by other people. But I'll
credit is shared by all.
Thank you for bringing it forward, though. Any other comments on the reports? I don't see that anyone has signed up for comments on items on or not on the agenda from members of the public outside of Troy. There's no closed session. Ms. Rosen, it took a little longer than 10 minutes, but thanks for hanging around. Somebody will get to you pretty soon. We're adjourned.